She's here, okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for coming along, and welcome to the Camden Schools Climate Summit. We're here today in the week of COP26 to celebrate all the climate action that's already happening in Camden and to catalyse what we hope is going to be much, much more. My name's Rachel Wrangham, and I'm here as a local parent, a school governor, a resident, a university lecturer, an all-round local activist. And my job today is just to kind of keep things moving and to make sure we get through what's going to be a packed programme. As you can see from this, we've got a busy programme ahead, and there are going to be opportunities to learn from experts, from other schools, and from each other, to work out what you can already do and what's stopping you from doing some of the things that you might like to be doing. Our afternoon is going to be divided into 4 main sections. We'll start with a short presentation from Carlos on the school's climate charter, when Carlos is going to tell you about how by signing the charter you can commit to taking action both as educators and as organisations. We're then going to have 5 short presentations that relate to 5 of the 10 charter commitments. And after that, representatives from 3 schools will tell you about what they have done so far. You'll hear inspiring accounts from them about curriculum, campaigning, and about how they've worked to reduce the environmental and climate impact of their school as an organisation. We'll then have a short coffee break and then move to a discussion and inspiration session where you'll have a chance to move between tables and talk about resources, energy, biodiversity and rewilding, transport and clean air, food, climate activism, and climate justice. But before we get going with our main programme, I'd like to invite Councillor Angela Mason, who is Cabinet Member for Children, Schools and Families, to say a few words of welcome and support.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's smashing to see so many people here today. And a very big welcome to our Camden Schools Climate Summit. I think of it as Camden COP1, and I hope there'll be many more to come. And also it's the launch of our new school's climate charter, which I hope that you're all going to sign if you haven't done so already, and act upon. I think the school's charter, the climate charter, is a really thorough and inspiring 10-point framework for change in schools and reduction in climate emissions. It covers everything, really, from the curriculum to school dinners to climate justice. So it frames all the work, much of which I know is already going on in schools. And it will be a big step forward, I think, for the whole educational community in Camden and for the borough as a whole. But like all big steps forward, it really rests on the work of individuals and groups, and I would say especially young people, who haven't waited for change, but have taken the initiative to create change. And I would like to thank particularly the young people I've met in the Sustainers Network, many of whom spoke at the council meeting in 2019 when the council declared a climate and ecological emergency and committed to take action to make Camden a net zero borough by 2030. And that was after, I think, we organised the first citizens' assembly on climate change in Camden. And we have had some successes. Emissions from council estates and operations, all the buildings the council manage, including our schools, have fallen by 51% since 2010. At that time in 2010, I was the first Green cabinet minister in Camden, and we launched the first action plan at Parliament Hill School. But I have to confess, 10 years or so ago, I was what I would call climate hesitant. I thought it was desirable, but I didn't realise that this whole struggle was absolutely imperative. The difference today is that we all know that we have to act now, and we all have, I think, a good understanding of what we have to do. As David Attenborough said at the COP conference, perhaps the fact that the people most affected by climate change are no longer some imagined future generation, but young people who are alive today, perhaps that will give us the impetus we need to rewrite our story. So thank you so much for participating today and being part of what I think is one of the most important international movements for change and social justice. Can I also thank many of the people who have made this conference possible, for Think and Do, Debbie and Steve, whose tireless work has been really absolutely incomparable, and so thank you so much. And to many others, including Transition Kentish Town, Camden Air Action, and all the school speakers and providers who will be taking part in the conference today. And of course, a very big thank you to Samson for being our host today. If you're involved with schools, you don't usually speak in such illustrious circumstances. So thank you very much, Samson. We really appreciate it. And finally, always remember, I think, that things don't just change. It's people, and people like you, who change things. Thank you very much and have a great afternoon.
Thank you very much indeed, Angela. We're now going to move on to a presentation from Carlos, who is going to introduce the Camden Schools Climate Charter.
Thank you, Rachel. Hello? All right, so today I'm just going to briefly introduce you to this framework that we developed with the support of the schools. And it all started, as Councillor Mason referred earlier, after the Council declared climate crisis in 2019. We ran the Citizens' Assembly, and in the context of that, we did a lot of engagement work with the schools. And the schools started talking about the need of having a framework to bring schools together. Also, having a framework that will bring commitment from the strategic leadership teams. Because what we have learned working with the schools is that it's always a very keen teacher working on the lunch hour, running an eco-school, going the extra mile, but it's not sustainable. So this framework intends to be a platform to gain commitment from schools, from the SLTs, and to enable sustainable action in schools. So the Charter commits schools into two areas, and what you're seeing is what is the actual Charter that you can download online. So I'm running through that information booklet. So it commits your school to work in two areas, as educators, of course, of future generations, and get children acting climate fight, as well as an organizations who run buildings, who buy stuff, consumables, who produce waste, who use resources and energy. The Charter, as Councillor Mason referred, has 10 commitments and covers all those areas, from the curriculum, single plastic use, and we know that is a really important area for the schools, and when we did the assembly and we got sustainers involved, most of the children were very, very keen on doing something about single-use plastics and ask the council to commit to phase them out. And we're working with Link, and you'll hear more about it later. So it covers waste, food, and we're also having Link today to talk about what they're doing, what else we can do together, transport, energy, procurement, rewilding, and this aspect is really important. It's about making climate action fun and engaging. And of course, climate justice. There are 5 steps to sign the Charter. So you can go online, and there's a form for you to sign the Charter. Once you've done that, you will be automatically declaring ecological climate crisis, and they will encourage you to make this public your school will be in our website, but we also encourage you to make this public on your own websites and communicate this to the school community. Set targets, so there are 10 commitments, and we don't expect the schools to work towards the 10 commitments at once, but we do ask you to look at least at 3 on year 1, and some of them is stuff that you're already doing, and you just go focus on those. And then develop an action plan. So this is really important, and it's a plan that is not something that is being led by one teacher, but it's a plan for the whole school, where the bursar is involved, where procurement team is involved, where everyone is involved. And finally, it's about sharing best practice. And we have a number of channels to do that, and we will love to gather every year in a sort of kind of summit conference to share those. And we'll look into doing that going forward. Once you sign the charter, you will get a certificate to display if you wish so. And this is the website where you can find more information about the charter. You can download this information booklet and sign the charter. Finally, we put a very succinct set of information sheet for each of the 10 commitments of the charter to give you a start. It's not exhaustive, it's not the one place to go, it's just a starting point. And something to make clear is that this charter is not another specialist framework like Eco-Stars or Eco-Schools or Sustainable Development Goals. Is a framework to bring schools together to work towards tackling climate crisis in the borough. We encourage you to use existing frameworks that are already working for you, and we signpost to those in this information booklet. So there will be, for each of the areas, we go one sheet giving you some facts, some actions, and links for further resources. And that's for all the areas. And then finally, this is where we signpost you to all those mainstream resources, ones that you already know, some ones you haven't seen before, you might be interested in looking into. So that is the charter and some of the information, and this is only a beginning. Signing the charter is the beginning, and we're working in collaboration with Think and Do to offer support to schools who sign the charter. And once you sign the charter, we'll be in contact with you to discuss how we can support you. So that's me, thank you.
Thank you very much, Carlos. As you can see, the Charter is intended to act as a supportive framework for action, and it's got lots of rich resources relating to all of the 10 themes Carlos mentioned. And it's intended mainly to be an accountability aid, a way of helping schools deliver on and achieve the things they want to do. We're now going to move on to 5 short presentations that relate to 5 of these themes that are in the Climate Charter. 4 of these speak to schools as organisations, while 1 is more focused on schools and educators. So can I invite now Alan Coward from Caterlink to come up? 5 minutes.
Yeah, I know. Thanks very much. Good afternoon. That didn't work well. The black hole. I'm going to take you through the agenda while they work out the background bits and pieces that we're going to be talking through. But it's really going through the journey of the menu, the recipes, and I suppose some of the end goals and the things that we're looking to do in the next stage. Thank you. Should have stuck a little button on there. So that's the areas that we will talk through. I will go through very briefly on the slides, and then obviously everyone's around as the afternoon goes through. So within Caterlink, we work with the Soil Association at this moment in time. So looking at things like the local suppliers, the seasonal menus, And those are against the criteria they have. We're talking with them at the moment to put into that sort of framework maybe the Green Kitchen Awards and things like that, so we can pull together and then move forward within that. Sustainable food. I think everybody sort of knows around the amount of meat, the amount of plant-based, the amount of meat-free days, climatarian days going forwards. Caterlink already put within things like the menus 50-50. It's two things within there, one climate and two to try and increase the fruit and vegetables that children are eating on a daily basis. So we have a chocolate brownie and red bean or a chocolate brownie and beetroot to try and work through some of those things with them. And some of the stats that you see already that those things can actually deliver. The projects that we're working on so within the borough, within, I suppose, the county, within London, are some of the small changes. You know, you look at the trifocal, there's 910,000 tonnes of waste, food waste that goes in. They think 640,000 of that can actually be used if we actually think about it differently within just the homes, the schools, all of those places, all of the places that we do. We work with RAP and our suppliers to starting to deliver, but actually take away that packaging and things like that, and so it's reusable rather than throw away on a daily basis within the schools. We've got Caterlink assemblies, and I'll come on to in a few moments. There's Caterlink assemblies we do around healthy eating and things like that, but we're actually going to launch an assembly, in a way, a climatarian den. It's based on Dragon's Den. We've done it with other schools around things, but that's really to take them through a dish, a menu, how much carbon that is, I suppose, produced within that for them to present, and there'll be prizes and things like that that we can do within the schools. Green kitchen standards that we do within the schools. The local suppliers, that's the basis of the local suppliers that we use. So we try to use the local suppliers that are based in and around the area. We use 70-80% of British produce within the menus, but it's really just trying to develop that further, but also changing the eating habits of the children that we have. Green Kitchen Standard, I won't go through, but the stages within there are the assessment tool. It's about the continuous improvement, I suppose, the submission of evidence, the site inspections, the need for waste collection, all of those things, but the kitchen waste, the measuring of that being one of the, I suppose, the key mandatory elements within. And I think there's some other speakers that we'll come on to around the managing food waste within kitchens, the production controls and things that we have, but even the green flash training that we give down to the front level within the services. Kitchen gardens that we operate, so there's 17 grants that we've given to Camden schools to produce small gardens within their schools, and we do tea parties and things like that, say with strawberries that they grow and other things. All of this really leads on to the carbon footprint of the menus and reducing that within the schools, and then producing, looks a bit busy, but then producing a menu that demonstrates plant-based, demonstrates the levels of dishes within there, and I know within the workout groups we're going to go through some of those a bit later. So the things and the pledges, plant power available, there's vegan options, climatarian days, and that's linked to the competition of Climate Den, no single use for sale in schools, and these are all things that we're doing, stroke will be doing. And I suppose one of the things that brings it home in my last 5 seconds is this. These are things that we do already within the schools, and a journey that we have been on. And the equivalent carbon dioxide of those dishes. So with just a beef bolognese, there's 71,000. With their plant-based, which we have 50-50, you've got the 40,000. With the vegan options, there's 17,000 tonnes, based on 45,000 meals that we do within Camden on an annual basis. So those things are in place at this moment in time, and I think you'll agree the percentage reduction can be staggering within there. Thank you very much. Nearly.
Thank you very much indeed. We're now going to move on to a presentation from Tim Wilcox of Veolia, who is going to talk to us about waste.
I only need it once. Thank you, Rachel. So, I'm Tim Wilcox, the Area Education Communication Outreach Manager for Camden and the City of London. I'm here to talk to you today about best practice for waste management in schools and what Veolia is doing to support Camden schools to implement climate actions related to waste and recycling. So Veolia is a global organisation. We're committed to becoming the benchmark of ecological transformation. This means mitigating the effects of climate change, protecting natural resources, preventing biodiversity collapse, and minimising pollution of our atmosphere. Our work across waste, energy and water industries enables us to take actions to deliver change, but like everybody else, we still have that journey ahead of us to meet our environmental goals. Collaboration and the sharing of ideas is crucial if we're going to be able to achieve these. In Camden, Veolia collects mixed recycling, food waste, and general rubbish from schools. The average UK secondary school produces 22 kilos of waste per pupil per academic year, with the figure in primary schools rising dramatically to 45 kilos. In schools, most of the weight comes from just two categories, and that's food waste and paper and cardboard. Whilst reducing the amount of food waste that you produce is the most sustainable option, recycling your school's food waste is a great way to tackle the climate crisis. When it comes to recycling, it's affordable and easy. For Camden run schools, food waste collections are free, and mixed recycling collections on average cost 40% less than rubbish collections. Food waste is taken to an anaerobic digester where bacteria breaks down food, producing gases that are used to generate electricity. The process also creates a nutrient-rich liquid fertilizer that is used on local farms. Recycling collected from Camden schools is sent to a materials recovery facility where it's separated and sorted before it's sent to reprocessors who will recycle it into something new. As another option for your school, you could also think about composting. Camden offers subsidised compost bins that could help you produce homegrown compost for your school's garden or vegetable patch. Alongside our collection services in Camden, Veolia offers a range of waste education resources. In September this year, we launched our Sustainable Schools Program. For primary schools, there are 3 e-learning lessons ranging from the journey that recycling takes, teaching pupils about littering, and the 4 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle, and recover. All lessons come with a quiz to test pupils' knowledge, as well as ideas for interactive classroom or homework-based activities. For secondary schools, we're asking students to research and think critically about issues that are impacting their local environment, and to offer real-world innovative solutions in response. Students can enter by submitting either a video, a poster, or a short essay on their proposed project. Winning schools will be granted money from our Sustainability Fund to get their project off the ground. The deadline for the applications has been extended for 2 weeks for this summit, so please do get your applications towards us. In addition, our education communication outreach officers are always on hand to deliver assemblies and workshops. These focus on the importance of the waste hierarchy and how sustainable behaviours are vital in our fight against climate change. We also offer other resources, including litter picking sessions and informative communication materials. So if there's any other Questions you might have about any of the information you've heard here today, please contact us on our email address or come to either myself or Alex, who's with me today, or just chat to us more in the World Cafe sessions later. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Tim. I'm very struck by the fact that primary schools produce more waste than the weight of most of the children in the school. That's a really, really striking statistic. And I was also thinking it's very important to remember the fifth R, which is to refuse. Refuse the materials that generate waste in the first place. Thank you very much, very interesting. Our next speaker is Karen from Camden Council, who is going to be talking about decarbonising.
Hello everyone, it's really good to be here to talk about our school buildings and how we hope to make them zero carbon within the next decade. I'm Karen Corkery, I work in the property department at Camden, and I'm not going to lie, it's a challenge to try and get our estate to be zero carbon by 2030 because we have such a different mix of buildings and different property types at different ages. However, I just want to say before we go on that with the help of my colleague, Susanna Espino, who is somewhere in the audience, who has been doing a tremendous amount of work in the background, we have been working hard to find a way to deal with this, and we are working on a strategy. Oh, sorry, I should have moved on to that. So our approach is going to be an holistic approach, where we look at the building as a whole, and we try and fix the building, the walls, the roof, the windows, rather than just going in and doing one element at a time. We've been advised that that approach by advisors that we've been working with, that is probably the best way to get maximum performance. So the way we are planning to do this is that we will first survey our buildings, and some of this work has already been undertaken, there's been a lot of work going on, but to survey them and to look at the performance of the building, the state of the fabric, and by the fabric I mean the walls, the roof, the windows, and to look at the plant, the mechanics. And then we need to identify which of those schools, those buildings, are high energy consumers, and what is the age of their plant, their boiler, is it coming to the end of its life? And then we need to focus on improving, and we really want to improve on the fabric, the sort of the envelope of the building, to prepare it for changing from gas boilers, but we need to prepare the building beforehand. That's our approach, and we want to engage with schools. We have been working with some of the schools that we've been talking to already, stakeholders. We're working a lot with government departments, and again, I'll highlight Susanna there, who's working with them a lot. So what have we been doing already? So in about 2019, late 2019, 2020, we commissioned sustainable engineers, specialists, to undertake a feasibility report for us, which was a great piece of work. It was by a company called Etude, and they worked with 3 different schools, and there were 3 different archetypes. So we had a 1960s listed school, secondary school, a Victorian primary school, and a more recently built children's centre. And the idea of that feasibility report was to sort of look at, is it feasible? Can we get to zero carbon within a limited time? And an indication on how much it's going to cost us. And that report looked in detail at how you could take each part of a building and eventually get to working with a whole, and provided great information on the different phases that we could work through, and an indication on how much each phase would cost. And then they replicated that across our whole estate as a desktop exercise. And the findings of that was that 90% of our estate, it is doable, but there is a significant cost. So subject to funding, it is doable to get our estate to zero carbon within the time frame. Following on from that, taking their recommendations, we realised that we needed more resources, and we needed more expertise than we actually have in-house. And so we've joined up with the GLA, and we've joined their refit programme. And they provide us with a service provider who will help to implement energy efficiencies and will help us develop and deliver on projects. And our chosen provider, we went through a procurement process, and we've got Amoresco working with us, which is great. Sorry, before I go on, I must have to say that also we have put funding bids into government, because obviously we can't do this without funding. We were unsuccessful on our first bid. We've got a bid in at the moment. We're hoping that we are going to get money to work with 4 of those schools, and we're looking to do that start next year if we're successful with the funding. And then I just very briefly, even though we're waiting for funding, we have already committed to do a pilot scheme at Brookfield School, which relates back to the feasibility report. And again, as I said, we're going to approach the whole building. Phase 1 will be just looking at the envelope of the building, the roof, the walls, the windows. It's a long-term project, and the idea is to put our approach into action, and hopefully the results will be that we will succeed in doing that, looking at the whole building and getting zero carbon, and we're thankful for Brookfield for working with us on this. Next steps is continuously looking at funding opportunities, working with Amoresco, who are going to get us very prepared for next bids so we can push the button when they're announced, looking at innovations to help us over the course of 10 years, things will improve, monitoring and improving and looking at that pilot and reviewing it all the way through to make sure that we learn from that project, and of course work with all our partners. Sorry if I've gone over. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Karen. Reducing emissions from buildings is one of the most important and one of the most difficult things, because as you say, the estate is old and exists, and it's difficult to change. We're now going to hear from Tom Parks, who is Air Quality Lead from Camden, who's going to talk about another major source of emissions, which is travel.
Thanks, Rachel. Thanks very much. So I'm just going to talk very briefly about some of the ways in which Camden Council is trying to support schools and parents and pupils throughout the borough to travel sustainably and actively to and from school. So one of the first things to talk about is the Tfl Stars Program. So this is sustainable travel, active, responsible, safe. So it's a TfL program designed to be a very methodical approach to support schools in allowing and enabling children and parents to travel sustainably. And it's set around a set of awards, so schools can work towards bronze, silver and gold award by undertaking a variety of different activities to support and enable sustainable travel at the school. The effectiveness of the various different activities is measured through pupil hands-up surveys. So this is a good way of firstly assessing what the sort of travel methods to and from the school are, but also evaluating the effectiveness of the program itself. And the schools can undertake or take part in competitions to win small prizes such as mini scooters and some road safety equipment as well. It's really easy to take part in the TfL Stars program. You just have to log some of the information you collect on the TfL website. And normally that's done by a sort of a nominated Stars champion at the school. Currently in Camden, we have 19 schools on the Gold Award, 10 on silver and 1 on bronze. And we really are trying to make this as easy as possible for schools to undertake in the borough. So we have a dedicated resource within the council in our transport service to try and really help you through the process of working through those TfL Stars awards. So the next thing I'd like to talk about is healthy school streets. So this may be a familiar term for some of you, but for others, a healthy school street is effectively a timed road closure outside a school street. And the whole purpose of the healthy school street is to reduce the amount of traffic outside the school gates at school drop-off and pick-up times. So this helps to work towards our climate crisis ambitions, but also tackling the air quality health crisis. And it's good for road safety outside schools as well. In Camden so far, we have 22 healthy school street schemes in place and another 6 to be launched over the coming year. Usually, healthy school street schemes go through an initial sort of soft touch consultation and are introduced under an experimental traffic order. And at the 12-month stage, there's a more comprehensive public consultation. So if you're a school that's going through the Healthy School Streets approach and you're in that experimental phase, it's really beneficial to get engaged in the process and to try and look at support for the scheme if you'd like to make it permanent. I mentioned that the aim is to reduce car dominance and to enable and encourage parents to travel sustainably and actively to and from school with their children. Currently, funding's tight. We've allocated all the funding we have available to the existing and forthcoming schemes, but it's always extremely useful to hear from any schools where you're keen to undertake any future projects. So, as and when funding comes available, we can work with you, when on the back foot when we'd like to do that. And again, we have a very dedicated resource within the council to support schools with healthy school streets. So I've included the email address here, but I'll be around in the World Cafe section, so more than happy to talk to anyone who's interested or would like to know more about healthy school streets. And the final thing to talk about today is the Camden Cargo Bike project. So this is a Mayor of London Air Quality Fund funded project, and we have two distinct strands within this. So one of them is to enable parents to do a 1 month free trial of an electric cargo bike, and the other one is a 1 month free trial of an electric bike with a child seat. So with the cargo bike scheme, parents who are taking part have the option of purchasing the bike if they enjoy it so much after that 1 month period, or they can continue to loan the bike for a small fee each month, or they return it. So there's no commitment from the outset. It's designed to try and get people trying these things out and exploring whether it might be a viable option for helping parents travel to and from school sustainably and actively. And we provide free cycle training throughout the project as well. And there's more information on Camden's website. So that's just a whistle-stop tour of 3 of the things that we're trying to do to support sustainable active transport. But please, come talk to me later on if you'd like to know more.
Thank you very much, Tom. The Healthy School Streets programme is one of the things which really makes for me a big marker in how far Camden has come. I have 3 children at 3 different Camden schools, and as of this September, all of those 3 schools now have healthy school streets. And outside one of them, the change in the atmosphere and the calmness and the safety is completely extraordinary. We just had a moment where the road was being dug up locally, so the cars had to come back down the street. And the sense of stress and of threat, when we just returned to what had been normal 3 weeks before, was absolutely extraordinary. So these are transformative schemes. Our final speaker now is Lucy Archer, who is going to talk to us about climate action planning. Final in this section.
Lovely, thank you. Hi everyone, thank you for having me here today. I am the Schools Programme Manager at environmental charity Global Action Plan. We're a London-based charity, but we work with schools all across the country. And I'm here today to talk a little bit about our new programme that we've just launched called our Schools Climate Action Planner. And this is part of our Transform Our World programme. So I don't know if anyone's heard of Transform Our World before. But it's a free online hub for schools to visit where you can find resources, programs, events, and further tools to support school staff, teachers, students to bring environmental action into the classroom and into the school environment. So we've just launched the Schools Climate Action Planner just in September this year. And that was in response to talking to teachers and knowing that schools were desperate to do things, to make a difference, to bring environmental action into the school, but were sort of overwhelmed by the amount of programs, resources that were out there and not really knowing where to start. And so we've been working with organisations across the country, 70 different organisations in total across the country, to bring together the best out there into an easy-to-use tool for schools and school staff. So a little bit about the tool. It's online, it's free to use, and it's been designed to be interactive and easy to use as well. And the idea is that it essentially prioritises the actions that are most suitable for your school. So I'll come on to exactly how it works in a moment, but it's all about helping you to design your own action plan that is designed for your school and tackles the issues that are most relevant to you. It doesn't just say, here's an action, go and get started. It provides you with information about how to do that, step-by-step guides, and then further information that you can gather from environmental organisations and educational organisations across the country. So it takes that step further as well. So how does it work? It's pretty simple. It starts off by asking you some very basic details about your school. So there's around 12 questions that it starts with. I've got a couple of examples here that just should be things that any member of staff should know or could find out relatively easily from other staff in the school. And the idea is that by sussing out some basic information about your school grounds and your operations to start off with, the tool can then prioritise the things that are going to make the biggest difference at your school. So, for example, does your school have access to outdoor space and greenery? Yes. Well, we know then that actually there's an opportunity for some areas of the school grounds to be rewilded or trees to be planted, and the tool will automatically select those to be shown to you first. The next section, once you've answered those questions, is to sort of browse a whole list of different actions. There are over 60 actions in there in total, and we're adding to those all the time, because whenever we hear about inspiring schemes that are going on, we talk to other organisations and we find out more and we add them to the planner. But those are split up into 4 pathways to try and help group those. So we've got path 1 is community, then we've got curriculum, culture, and your campus, which incorporates your school grounds. And then different actions are thrown up in priority order for your school to select. And we've got some symbols here that tell you about the impact, the little flowers, the impact that will have. There's a pound sign that indicates the cost to your school for implementing that, and then the amount of time it's likely to take. So once you've browsed these, you can then select the ones you'd like to add to your action planner, clicking on Add to Action Plan, or you can let us know that you're already doing something. You can click We Already Do This, and you've got the opportunity to share what it is you have done to inspire other schools and help them know how to get started on that action as well. Once you've done this, these actions will be added to your downloadable PDF action plan that you can come back to online on your profile as well on Transform Our World. So you'll have a PDF document. It will tell you a bit more about that particular action, how to go about it, who's out there that might be able to help you in terms of organisations. And then you've got options down the right-hand side to tick it off once you're done, to share an update and a case study on how you've done it so that we can share that with other people, or if actually it's not applicable in the end, to say, actually, we can't do this. That's as simple as it is. And then you've got a progress bar at the very bottom of the page, which shows, as you tick off those actions, your journey to being to reducing your environmental impact at your school. So in terms of how to access the tool, it's free, it's online. You just need to register at Transform Our World, navigate to the tools section, where you'll also find our Clean Air Framework tool, which does the same thing, but just for clean air as well. And then you can select the action planner and get started. So I will also be joining one of the World Cafe sections in a moment, so any questions, please come and see me. But otherwise, we hope you enjoy using the tool. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. It sounds like a really practical and useful framework for schools. We aren't going to take questions at this stage because we're running a very tight ship with time, but there will be a chance to ask questions to all of our speakers as part of the World Cafe session or in the networking break, which is coming up soon. So we just need to swap microphones, I think. So people who have got microphones, I think, need to pass them on to speakers in the next session. And while that's happening, I just wanted to introduce you to the barrier buster cards that you're going to be finding out about later and that are going to be in the World Cafe sessions. These are cards that you can use to alert the council to any barriers that exist and that are preventing your school from taking the action that it might want to be taking. So, for example, we heard from Caterlink about the amazing difference that having plant-based meals can make over having meat-based meals. But you probably know, if you've tried this sort of experiment in schools before, that children are extremely conservative, and that if you change the menu radically, you either have a huge amount of food waste at the end of the day, very hungry children, or a lot of complaints. So if you've had these kinds of problems, write this kind of thing down on the Barrier Buster card. And Carlos has committed to responding to each and every one of these Barrier Buster suggestions with specific suggestions about what it is that you can do to overcome these barriers. So thank you so much to our 5 speakers, 5 thematic speakers. We're now going to move on to a section on schools. And we have, before we break for coffee, we've got 3 short presentations from representatives from Torriano Primary, from UCS and from Parliament Hill School. And they're going to be telling us what they've already been doing in their schools, both to make the school organisation more efficient and climate friendly, and to teach their children and young people about climate issues. So I'm going to invite Rosemary O'Brien from Torriano School to come and tell us about what you've been doing there.
You have to tell me how that works. We don't have anything that fancy. Just going to move that one. Thank you. As Councillor Mason said, we don't usually perform in such salubrious surroundings in primary schools. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rose O'Brien, and I'm the Learning Pathways Lead from Torriano Primary School. I'm delighted to be here today at the launch of the Camden Climate Charter and to be offered the opportunity to share what we do at Torriano and give you an idea of what climate action looks like in a primary school. At Torriano, we really care about the planet, believe me. We love our planet. We do so many things with the children to support their learning. We're also committed to promoting pupil agency, empowering our children to become change makers who see themselves as part of a global family that shares skills and knowledge throughout our community and the wider world. We have been a rights-respecting school since 2009, and as part of this, we've always advocated for global equality and campaigned on local and global issues through the lens of children's rights. Once children know their rights, they can see when their rights aren't being met, and that helps them to identify injustice. That's socially, economically, and, of course, environmentally. The Sustainable Development Goals provide a platform for our children to take action and to use their oracy skills to express their opinions and share their knowledge. At Torriano, the SDGs provide relevance across our curriculum. The themes have been integrated across the school and turned into actionable projects in the community. For example, when we study materials in science, we'll look at sustainable options. Or when we study islands in geography, we look at why they're more susceptible to environmental change and flooding. Seasonal lessons will consider where our food comes from and how far it has to travel to get to our plate. Children can see the links clearly and how their agency can really create change. Really important. A case study of our work was included in the UK submission to the UN Voluntary National Review of Progress Towards the SDGs, which was launched at Torriano by DFID's then Secretary of State, Rory Stewart, who rather eloquently noted that we study a normal curriculum, but we do it by thinking about poverty, by thinking about water quality, by thinking about air quality, and by thinking about children's fundamental rights and the interests of the planet. So, what does this all look like in practice? I've linked up a few of our more notable campaigns with the Camden Climate Charter to show you how climate action can be incorporated into the curriculum using SDGs and rights. So in 2018, following lessons and assemblies on plastic pollution, SDG 14, and the damage that plastic waste from our local area was causing, our school council voted to ban all single-use plastic bottles in our school. Never try to visit Torriano with a plastic bottle. You will be taken down by a group of very enthusiastic children, I promise you. Months later, following lessons on sustainable consumption, spurred by the world's largest lesson and our STEAM learning, we introduced meat-free Mondays. Very controversial, but went down very well. And now we're thinking maybe meat on Mondays, and the rest of the week maybe vegetarian. Why not, you know? We've also campaigned relentlessly for clean air and active travel, and were recently awarded the Gold Stars Award for the work we have completed in this area. STEAM learning is, of course, a clear focus for the school, and our most recent whole school project, Dig a Little Deeper, explored how our local environment can have a positive effect on all aspects of a child's education, linking closely with national curriculum objectives. We evaluated the potential for community sustainable power generation and rewilding of the school both inside and out. In essence, greening the grey, an ambition of the Camden Biodiversity Strategy. The children investigated the benefits of solar energy, monitored our air quality, and reimagined the roads outside our school. Children have seen real outcomes from their work during STEAM. Our EYFS area has become a haven for mini beasts and wildlife with the support of Global Generation and Nurture Landscapes. The children's investigations into solar energy have also led to action, and the school is now working with Powered Up North London to install solar panels in our school. This will have real impact for the children involved and support our school's sustainable future. We also worked with Camden Council to widen pavements and install much-needed bus lanes outside our school, improving air quality and encouraging active travel. Child agency and parental activism in action. Our school focus this year is the art of explanation, and our children continue to use their oracy skills and understanding of their rights and the SDGs to campaign and lobby government. This week, they've been busy learning all about COP26 and contacting our local MP, Sir Keir Starmer, calling for action for our planet. And today, children across the school are attending Transform Our World's Youth Summit. Fantastic resources. Their passion and knowledge is astounding. And I'm confident that our change makers will be the decision makers of the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to move straight on, please, to James Firth from UCS.
Thanks. Okay, so I hope that the next couple of minutes just provide a few bits of, or at least a few examples of the ways that UCS have tried to put together a framework for sustainable action. We're not particularly going to focus too much on the actions that students have made, but rather the broader actions that we've put together. So to begin with, the starting point that we were faced was January 2019, we were reassessing what we were doing with sustainability, and we were faced with three major issues, which I think quite a few schools probably might recognise. Firstly, we didn't know where our emissions were. We had no idea what were our greatest emissions, where we needed to target, and we didn't have any idea about the way we could actually document the progress we were making. Secondly, we wanted to focus. There was lots of positive environmental action being carried out, especially in the pre-prep and junior branch, but there was no overall strategy to kind of support them. The bursary and the estates department weren't joining things up, and so it wasn't making it as effective as it could be. And there's also an over-reliance on individual teachers rather than joined up work and reliance on just one or two teachers kind of burning out. So to try and address them, we set up these kind of four main goals over the next 2 years to try and put in place. So the first one was to put in place a rigorous baseline measure. So we wanted to get a really good idea about where our emissions were and set reduction targets against. The UN's target is a reduction of 7.6% each year, and that's what we are now aiming towards to try and reduce. Alongside this, we wanted to develop a forum to coordinate the sustainable action across the foundation so that it wasn't reliant on individuals' teachers. We wanted to offset any emissions that weren't immediately reduced. And then finally, because we're in an educational setting, the students need to be involved at every stage. So to cover the measure element that we've been involved in, so we, in April 2021, so fairly recently, We carried out a full audit of our foundation in support of, or supported by One Carbon World, which is a charity which are part of the UN Climate Neutral Now programme. They assisted us in collating a whole load of information across all aspects of the school, and they have allowed us to have an annual report, which has then meant that we can identify where our major emission areas are and where we can start to reduce against. We're currently in the position of generating our second year of measurement at the moment, so we're at that point where we've almost got a baseline about what we're confident on for our emissions. So we wanted to share with you what we found from this, mainly because we don't actually know what this number means, because we don't have a context for other schools about where the emissions are. So our total emissions was 1.3 tonnes of carbon dioxide per pupil per year. We couldn't find anywhere publicly available information that put this number into context. And so if any schools are carrying out carbon emission measurements, we'd be really keen to kind of have the discussions and understand where this number actually fits in the context. In terms of the UK context, it does fit in roughly, because it's about a quarter of the total emissions for an average adult in the UK. But it's something at least we would like to be able to kind of move on and share and kind of have that discussion. So to put this, to kind of reduce this and to put in place reduce our emissions, we also wanted to ensure that we had a long-term approach where we were trying to incorporate everybody rather than being reliant on individual teachers. So to try to achieve this, we established the Sustainability Working Group, which meets every half of term. It involves all the key stakeholders in the school. So we have members of the SLT, head of bursary, head of estates, key teachers who organise the student groups, and also students as well themselves. And the idea about this is that the agenda is set as a 5-year development plan for them on sustainability, and each half term they are then discussing their progress against annual targets. So at least then there's some accountability to it. So these then feed into the student groups and lead into putting them in place so that they can put some changes in place. So for example, a group of sixth formers contacted the Estates Department to organise a meeting about renegotiating the energy contract so that it become a sustainable energy provider. And the Estates Department, because they'd already been involved in the discussions earlier, knew and understood this and were able to support them in their progress. So this hopefully gives you two aspects that we've had a go at trying to provide the framework for students to be able to put their action in place and to put them in so that there is some kind of structure for students to be able to work alongside. We're certainly a long way from achieving this, but hopefully this provides a few ideas for you and your schools. I'm very happy to kind of discuss this further, hopefully later on today. Stuck to it.
Thank you very much. Our final speaker in this section is Rachel Ercott from secondary school, Parliament Hill.
What do I press? Okay, lovely. Ooh, you can hear me. Hello, everyone. My name's Rachel, and I'm from Parliament Hill School. I really feel a bit strange stood up here without my climate action group with me. There's around 80 students who are involved, but on a regular basis, probably about 40 students attending weekly to our weekly lunchtime group. And I think what I can offer is something outside of the curriculum and outside of the systems and the structures, which I'm absolutely in awe of from the other schools. I guess our approach is a bit more, we've just had to just get on and do it, and we've had to. And the reason we had to get on and do it is because of the school strikes. We had to respond. It shocked us, and we were shocked into action from the students. So our action has been 100% really led by the students. They've done, I'm very much a facilitator. I attend the meetings, I take notes sometimes, although they now are the minute takers and the agenda setters. I'm not too sure why I'm there now, but I think it's mainly to be the go-between between sort of finance office or the facilities team, and to just help things happen, really. And things have happened, as you can see. I think I've probably missed things off this list. But since the school strikes, we have several film screenings that happen sort of termly. The students pick a film, they pick which year groups they want to see it, students sign up. We've had lots of guest speakers as well. We have had a litter pick. This was our first sort of project, was the Parley War on Waste. We really focused in on the single-use plastic. We've not got as far as you yet. You're our heroes. But there has been a big reduction in single-use plastic. And what it all started with was our Sustainers project and their Dragon's Den for a reusable bottle designed by the students. And that was several years ago. Well, it's just coming into the school now. It literally is arriving within the next week, and we can't wait to roll that out. We've done a waste audit, well, the students did. They reported the results back to the staff. They trained the staff. They disciplined the staff. They have similarly disciplined Caterlink, it's in a couple of meetings about the ongoing challenges with the single use there. They have gone and spoken to the governors, who are really backing them, really on board. They've held a swap shop. COVID put a stop to that. So they've now found other uses for the clothes that they collected, including a massive art workshop that happened today. But the big focus has been nature and rewilding. So from that climate charter that we saw Carlos present, they've really gone down the route with the biodiversity and taking responsibility there. And I think COVID actually pushed us in that direction because we needed to be outside. And it's been amazing. We've now got our Parley Feminist Orchard. What's feminist about it? Each tree is dedicated to a feminist. This, again, is completely student-led. They've nominated the women. They had a vote on it for the whole school. We are putting the plaques in place on Friday at an event to celebrate their work. We have yesterday built a greenhouse, raised beds. We've dug a pond, not filled with water yet, but it's coming. And we are in the process of building a bug hotel, which has turned into a bug world. It's now going to be a bug London skyline, starting with Bug Ben. But apparently they're going to go on a London Eye. I don't know how the bugs are going to do that, but they've got plans. Watch this space. I'm sure it's going to happen. And just the last thing that we're so excited about is one of our students is currently at COP26. She is part of the delegation representing Chad. So she has the full access all areas pass and is giving us daily updates. She messaged me yesterday to say, don't worry, I've been chatting with Nicola Sturgeon, so that's great news. Well done, Safia. I look forward to reporting a lot more in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much to all of our speakers for such amazingly inspiring presentations. We've now got about 20 minutes for tea and coffee and networking and chatter, and we're then going to come back to a World Cafe session. Please do grab any of our speakers to speak to them and to follow up on things, and I'll see you later.